What's in the house? Jackson Kung Fu here, and I'm going to be I'm going to be reacting to film theories. Don't hug me, I'm scared. Okay, let's go.
What's your favorite idea? Mine is being
What?
creative.
Did I just see?
Oh yeah?
Ah!
Well, mine is unraveling the mysteries of insane viral videos.
This is new. Oh my god. Whoa.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Film Theory, the YouTube version of your uncle who thinks that everything is a conspiracy. Why, yes, Uncle Bob. I do think it's strange that you never see a baby pigeon. And I'm definitely interested to hear your theory about the government's involvement in that. Please tell me. And it's that kind of mixture of insanity and analysis that brings us to today's topic, the independent internet darling,
film theory and game theory. Did I just put up random pictures and talk crazy?
It's a series of short films with puppets that looks to be inspired by shows like Sesame Street.
Yeah.
But hold on there, all you neglectful
I grew
parents
up on
raising your
Sesame
kids off
Street
of YouTube videos. If any of you are
when I was
looking it up right
little.
now to show your children, you're probably going to want to let me finish this sentence.
Ah, God, his
Each
face!
episode of Don't Hug Me, I'm
Oh,
Scared features
God,
a bit of
my
a
God.
dark turn towards the end. Like arts and crafts with a real heart. Or a giant eating a duck alive. Oh yeah, you're in that part of YouTube again. But even though Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared is genuinely one of the weirdest things I've watched on YouTube, I really like it. It's really well done, and you should absolutely watch it. At its core, this series is all about YouTube. Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared's creators, Becky Sloan and Joseph Pelling,
there's
started
their names.
this from scratch on the site. The first episode came out only 3 months after I uploaded my first ever episode of Game Theory. It's a long time ago, so I feel like we have a kindred history here. Also, I like it because this show refuses to be categorized. It's got puppets, but it also has animation in a lot of different styles. And then if you wait long enough, it also has some live action sequences. All of
50 minutes, okay. We'll finish 15 minutes.
To interpret. These videos aren't interested in playing by anybody else's rules, and that makes it really exciting to watch. But last, and probably most importantly, is the amazing attention to detail these videos have. The number of callbacks and Easter eggs in every episode is astounding. Some of them you have to practically watch frame by frame to even see.
Oh my god.
No, that's the kind of stuff that makes me, and obviously tons of other theorists out there, really excited.
I'm trying to not say God ever again, because I'm gonna say gosh.
First theory on this series. That's right, I said first. More on that later. We're gonna talk about what the whole thing means. An overview of the main themes of the whole series. Granted, we're not the first people to try and do this. YouTube and Reddit were flooded with theories when the last episode went up. But I really tried to do my homework on this one, and I got an explanation for Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared that'll convince even the most skeptical of theorists. Be warned, comprehensive spoilers lie ahead, but then again, this entire thing is on YouTube, and it's just 6 episodes that are between 3 and 8 minutes each.
Well,
so
whenever I'm watching game theory or film theory, I get weird vibes. I'm like scared. Especially game theories, FNAF theories. It's just
a lot of
creepy.
Bizarre events in this series.
But this is film theories. Let's not talk about game theories.
To whom I'll be referring to from here on out as the red guy, the yellow guy, and the duck being stuck in purgatory or some sort of nightmare. To that I say, Occam's razor, my friend. A better explanation is one that's a lot simpler. These 3 are just stars of a children's television show. Granted, it may not be a very nice children's television show, but the evidence is there. There are several instances in which we see the inner workings of a television show.
Freezing in here.
And cameras right in episode 1 at the start of the
freezing cold like an ice
then again,
cube.
in episode 4, when the red guy follows the computer wire to the next room, and in episode 6, as the lamp explains dreaming to the yellow guy. We can also tell that most of the time, these characters are on sets. This is most obvious when Duck revolts in episode 5, saying, the perspective of the video changes, indicating that Duck has hit the camera that's filming him, and when the camera looks upward, we can see the characters aren't actually in a house with a ceiling, but in a studio with lights overhead. The other obvious tip-off is that our 3 main characters are basically archetypes of what you'd see on Sesame Street. The yellow guy is a human puppet, like Bert or Ernie. The duck is an animal puppet, like Snuffleupagus or Big Bird, and the red guy is some sort of humanoid monster.
It's so good for me, because like I grew I
me,
grew up on
me.
Sesame Street when I was
All the
little.
time. Those things utterly freaked me out, by the
Yeah,
way.
it was a
And if this
teddy
isn't in a
baby.
TV show, it would explain some of the Easter eggs we keep seeing in later episodes. As Don't Hug
19th
Me,
of
I'm Scared
June.
progresses, we start to see some of the same props
19th
appearing over and
of
over
June.
again. At the beginning of episode 4, we can see a statue of Malcolm from the previous episode on the fireplace next to the clock. At the start of episode 5, we see the number chart the computer uses in episode 4 attached to the refrigerator. And then there are other props, like the red, blue, and yellow baseball cap that keeps showing up episode after episode. These aren't just cool Easter eggs, they're there for a reason. To decorate the set with props they've used before instead of having to buy entirely new props and set pieces every time. This is common not just within TV shows, but also across productions as a way to save money. There are examples of this practice all over film and TV, like the newspaper from No Country for Old Men showing up in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and even better, Modern Family. The armor from Starship Troopers also makes an appearance in Firefly, or Star Trek literally reusing an entire space station in 2 completely separate productions. There's one other juicy bit of theorist bait in episode 6 that strongly points to the whole thing being a TV show as well. When the yellow guy is in bed looking through his scrapbook, we see a picture of the red guy, who wasn't in episode 5 except for the credits, and whose bed is empty at the start of episode 6, wearing a graduation cap. Other theorists have suggested that this means that red guy is a teenager who grew up and went out to the real world, but going off to college is also a way for a television show to explain the sudden absence of a main character. For instance, at the end of season 4 of Blue's Clues, the original host Steve announces
Okay,
that
guess
he's
you're
leaving
talking
Blue to
about
go
Blue's
off to
Clues now.
college, when in actuality that was just the show transitioning to a new host, letting Steve go and do whatever weird artsy films that he's working on now. And no, internet, he did not go off and die of a heroin overdose. He just did a TV show like 3 years ago. Fact check, internet. Man, you guys are dark. Then again, we are talking about a series of videos where one of the puppets dies in a vat of oil and another gets his intestines ripped out. So, yeah. Internet is a dark, dark place. All right, great. So Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared is a kids' TV show. Awesome. But what does it mean? What the heck are the makers of the show trying to say? Well, the first part of this is fairly obvious. Television messages that are delivered to children are corrupting them as much as they're helping them. Those episodes of Sesame Street? Oh yeah, leading your kids down a dark path of brainwashing destruction.
Big Bird's my favorite, by the way.
At least according to DHMIS. You don't think so? Just look at each episode. The pattern here is pretty clear. Each one has a theme you'd expect to see on a show like Sesame Street. Creativity, how time works, love, technology and computers, healthy eating, and dreams. But in every instance, that message gets corrupted. And not just by decaying flesh or catching your dad watching porn or a human heart covered in glitter. Let's take it episode by episode.
Ignore that. We're trying to be child
Creativity,
friendly
except it
here.
portrays certain
We
types
do
of
not say the
creativity as
P
being
word,
right and
okay?
wrong, claiming that green isn't a creative color and that the yellow guy's picture of a clown deserves to be destroyed because it's somehow creative in the wrong way. Episode 2 tries to explain the concept of time, but that explanation is overly simplistic and teaches that time is important, even though kids still can't understand it from the way it's being taught. The clock answers questions about time like, but when did it start?
And when will it start?
When did it start? When did it start?
Then, when the duck finally tries to explain time scientifically, the clock yells until
You
yellow guy's
stupid.
ears literally start to bleed. In episode 3, the yellow guy learns about love from a butterfly,
Pesky bee?
or bee,
A little baby pigeon.
or little baby pigeon, or whatever, and teaches him about feelings, but then later learns that love is only okay when it's followed in a certain way, particularly as it applies to religion. Episode 4 is all about computers and how they can teach us a lot about the world, but at the end simply conclude that in the digital world, people end up doing frivolous things like fashion and shopping and mindless entertainment. They're literally getting sucked into a computer and distracted with all these superficial things rather than the information they were looking for in the first place. Then in episode 5, the characters are supposed to learn about how to eat healthily, but the advice of the
cartoon
canon is
reactions,
confusing
really,
and contradictory. And this food
because when I
pyramid
watch
is just
YouTube videos,
terrifying.
I
Food groups
am
can easily
quiet.
be sorted using the
I don't
simple
wanna
health shape.
It's also about how certain name
overtake
brand products are
me.
good for you and others are bad. The underlying theme here is
I don't know,
clear.
but hear
The kid
everything,
show these
alright.
3 characters are in
Totally.
throughout the entirety of Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared sets out to deliver lessons about the world, but either fails miserably or succeeds in intentionally brainwashing kids to a specific point of view. But why? Why are the creators of the show so cynical about kids programming? Are they trying to say that there's some big conspiracy behind kids' TV shows? Well, yeah.
I keep ignoring
Deeper,
that.
and there's evidence that the show's creators are railing against
According
not
to
just
my
kids'
phone,
TV, but
and
the
I have
makers of kids' TV
notifications.
and what their goals really are. Not in educating kids, but in making money. Throughout the series, we see visuals all about earning money, such as the very first thing you see in Don't Hug Me, a newspaper which reads, "Stocks flying high," along with a figure that seems to imply that the value of the British pound is increasing. We also have subtler clues, like a board game in the background of episode 4 that's titled Money Win. But the most important element of this is in a very small detail. Any fan of Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared knows that each of the episodes takes place on June 19th. But what you have to look closer to see is the year. You can actually figure it out from episode 1. That newspaper headline about stocks soaring in the UK is no accident, and it's not fiction. If you look at stock records for June 19th over the last 100 years, there's one year in particular where stock markets were hitting record highs on that date in 1955.
Oh my
1955,
god.
stock markets
It's really
all over the world,
scary.
including the US
Jeez,
and
I
UK,
feel like someone's
broke
gonna
practically
pop up.
every record imaginable when the markets opened. And if this was good evidence in episode 1, in episode 2, we
Scare me.
get our definitive proof. When the clock mentions that the past is far behind us, we see a picture of all 3 main characters with the date underneath that reads 1906-55. The 1906 part obviously stands for June 19th, since the Brits put their
The
date before the month,
19th of
with the
June,
55 confirming our year. But why? Why
I
1955?
was
Well,
an
1955
electrician.
was actually a huge deal in British television history.
And
Prior to 1954, the British Broadcasting
I was
Corporation, or
making
BBC,
electricity
held a
for the
monopoly
wait,
on
what?
British television. But it was 1954 that the
Ignore
UK
me,
passed what
please. Just
became known as the
ignore me.
Television Act in an effort to bring an
Why am I
end to
doing
that
hand
BBC monopoly.
reactions?
This act led to the
Move my
establishment
hands
of the
a lot. I
first
don't know why. You
alternative
can't even
network
see
called
it.
ITV for
Question
independent
for you
TV
guys.
in
In future
1954. Well, the BBC
reaction
is sponsored
videos,
by
should
the
I do
British
FaceTime?
government.
Because I'm thinking I
ITV is
should.
independent and therefore has to make its money
So you
through
can actually see
advertising.
my
Now, in
proper face
interpreting this
reactions
series,
when I'm
other
watching it.
YouTube channels, most notably YouTube Explained, have covered this topic, but they've said in the context of Don't Hug Me that this was a good evolution. I see it the opposite way, and I'm pretty sure the creators of Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared would agree.
Oh god,
Here's why.
I'm
This
gonna fall
was
asleep
the
now.
first time that advertising appeared in British television, marking an inflection point at which
Tired?
television went from a medium to communicate and entertain to a medium to make a profit, thereby giving executives and advertisers as much and oftentimes more power than the creators. And Britain was especially sensitive to TV advertising. I mean, in the US, we were already used to interrupting TV programs with ads, or not even interrupting them at all. In the US, it was actually standard practice at the time to bleed those regular shows into an ad. So one minute you'd be watching the Flintstones, and then all of a sudden they'd be selling you cigarettes. No joke. Or watching a game show and then being sold dishwasher detergent in the middle. One piece of evidence that was used against ads was that in the US, the coverage of Queen Elizabeth's coronation was
Ow.
interrupted by a
Ow,
commercial with a
ow,
dancing
ow,
monkey
ow,
named
ow.
J.
Okay,
Fred
ow.
Muggs. The British considered
Ow,
advertisements
jeez,
like that
ow.
embarrassing and quite frankly rude. You
Poke
don't
my
interrupt
eye
their
for
queen
no
with a
reason.
monkey.
Ah!
1954 and 1955 were years that were filled with debates about when and how to allow ads onto TV. And if the behavior of Becky and Joe, Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared's creators, is any indication, the issue of ads influencing TV is a big concern of theirs. According to the newspaper The Guardian, Becky and Joe received offers from more mainstream sources to make episodes of Don't Hug Me, but turned them all down and funded the project themselves through Kickstarter. Joe Pelling was quoted as saying, "We wanted to keep it fairly odd and have the freedom to keep doing exactly what we wanted." The implication here is clear. If Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared were made for television, television, it would have had to have been approved by other people. People whose interests would have been for profit or popularity, not about the message of the show. And when you look at these 6 episodes, it's pretty clear that the messages for a positive, good, inspirational, entertaining kids show are there, but they've been perverted by the influence of an outside force. Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared is ultimately a parable for the loss of control that artists trade off when they work on bigger screens. Their messages are manipulated
This is
and their morals
freaky.
are poisoned by others with ulterior motives. And with that, I'm gonna have to leave you hanging. I know, I'm sorry. I recognize that we're just starting to scratch the surface of this series, but establishing this series as a launching point was really important for answering all the other questions that we haven't gotten a chance to touch on today. Who are these characters, really? What is the significance of June 19th? What about Roy, the ominous lurking figure the yellow guy claims is his dad? And what does the ending mean? But don't worry, we're getting to all those questions and more in just another week, which means that the lesson of today is
So next week,
subscribing. Subscribing is a good
Oh,
idea.
here's the advertisement.
If you want to see the videos when they come out, subscribe. And in the meantime, remember, that's
Just a theory, a film theory.
And
What? Okay, guys. Thank you for reacting. Wait, thank you for reacting to this Thank you for reacting. So, thank you for watching this No, thank you for reacting. No, wait. Thank you for watching this reaction to a theory. Okay, bye.